You're watching A News. I'm Bakhtiar Sonov and welcome to Context, where today we spotlight a rising but often under-discussed regional body, the Economic Cooperation Organization, or ECO. Spanning 10 nations from Turkey to Pakistan and encompassing Iran, Azerbaijan and the Central Asian republics, ECO offers a compelling model of pragmatic regionalism. Unlike military-driven alliances or ideologically rigid blocs, ECO is bound by geographic proximity and shared economic interests. Since its founding in 1985 as a modest trilateral pact, it has grown into a platform representing over 460 million people. With members rich in natural resources, strategic trade routes and agricultural output, Economic Cooperation Organization may well hold the key to deeper intra-regional cooperation and resilience in an increasingly multipolar world. Joining us today are distinguished voices: A News correspondent Tuğraç Şiralilov from Iran, political analyst Onur Erim from Turkey, and political analyst Javad Reina from Pakistan. They will help us unpack Economic Cooperation Organization's flexible framework challenges and growing relevance on the regional and global stage. Mr. Şiralilov, Mr. Erim, and Reina, thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So let's begin our discussion. Mr. Erim, let's begin with you. How do you assess ECO's current role in shaping economic integration among its member states?
Well, first of all, the region, which makes up ECO and the countries, and the potential of two sides of this. Number one, the member countries are obviously quite well off when it comes to natural resources. And it's also a very strategic position right at the heart of the old Silk Road, and what seems to be the new bridge, the ever historical bridge of being the route between East and the West. I think the cooperation has a extremely huge potential. However, in today's world, as you said in your opening remarks, in a polarized world, these economical unions have to be very carefully constructed. And I think, which is now also a big factor in our world, the PR for this should also be made very well. As you know, the standing big powers and the big alliances in the world do not want competition. We have seen this, many examples of this in the last couple of years, with with how the BRICS union came up and how it got really affected and it got really attacked by the Western powers, by the Western alliances. So this has to be a very carefully played out, progress. It has to be a very carried out project. However, it's also much needed, not just for the region, but for the world, for these countries to be able to work, with a big cooperation. Will not only help these countries, but it will help actually stability for the region, hence the world. So I see these economical unions as a great opportunity, leading, a lot of, ways to also complement other things, be it regional security, be it better enhance the living conditions for everybody around the world. I value this very much, but I also caution that this has to be very carefully constructed and it has to be very carefully progressed in time.
So, Mr. Şiralilov, what, in your opinion, what makes ECO's flexible framework appealing in today's geopolitical climate?
Back in the 1950s and 1960s, when ECO was established, it was like a framework to stop influence of Soviet Union down to the Western allies of the United States. Iran, Turkey, and Pakistan were founding members, but guess who else was the member? It was United Kingdom. But what makes ECO more meaningful in today's world beyond those 1950s or 60s considerations is that how much states can cooperate together. In this way, minimize their costs and maximize their profits. ECO was, or ECO, in sense, and it is also serving in that sense again. But what we should see that ECO is is only one of the regional organizations these days active in this region, because many members of ECO were also coming from the post-Soviet Union independent states. We see that it is in a way intermingled with the Eurasian unions or Eurasian organizations that is taking place in the region. So if you are a member of ECO, that means you will be most probably a member of Eurasian structure. Also, many of members of ECO are members of the Shanghai Security Organization, and at the same time, perhaps a few of them members of BRICS. So ECO is working as a one chain in this long strain of chains of regional countries and needs to coordinate and cooperate with the existing regional organizations in order to increase its efficacy and increase its performance. That's the way I think forward for ECO to prove that it will still remain as a vital organization and influential to bringing development and peace to the people of its member states.
So, Mr. Reyna, compared to other regional blocs like the EU ASEAN or Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where does ECO stand in terms of effectiveness?
I think in terms of its history, it's an old one, but in terms of its efficacy, effectiveness, I think it is not as much as it really deserved to be. The reason being is that there is a kind of a replica of many other regional trade blocs, and because of which I think the issue could not take off from the ground in a manner it really deserves. This is a bloc which has nearly a $9 trillion economy. It's a bloc which has from 500 to 600 million population. It's a bloc which shares cultural ties. It has a bloc which has a very deep-seated ethnic and religious relations. Nonetheless, I think the scale of the trade, that when we look at that, I think it has not come up to its real potential. And that is a bigger challenge for all these countries, these 10 members blocks of ECO. Now I can recall when I was a student, I remember ECO used to be taught in the schools and colleges as a subject. That was the importance that Pakistan was giving the country I belong to. And I can also say that in 90s and 80s, Pakistani military generals and the government had a very strategic vision about ECO. The reason being was because part of the reason that Pakistan was struggling, supporting militants in Afghanistan against the then Soviet Union was that Pakistan wanted to have a greater connectivity with these Central Asian states. I think they did manage to get rid of Soviet Union as it was at that particular point of time, but they have not been able to establish the kind of the connectivity, the kind of the strategic vision that Pakistan had. Again, it's a bloc with a great potential, but certainly there has to be more bilateral relations, more trades among these countries. With regard to Azerbaijan, I can tell you that Pakistan see it in a very positive, with the positive lenses. When you talk with the people in Pakistan, they see it in a very different shade. And you may recall not long ago that Pakistani military was there in Azerbaijan. Pakistani youngsters were there in Azerbaijan. Pakistan's weapons were there in Azerbaijan to fight against Armenia. On its territorial dispute with Armenia. So the point I'm trying to make is that such a great potential, but again, when it comes to when we look at the trade statistics, I think they are not matching with the desire of the common people on the streets, both in Central Asian states and also in other countries. So I think these countries need to go for a bigger realization of the potential of the trade, and also more importantly, in a situation when the world is changing, in a situation when there is no superpower. There are three great powers: Russia, China, along with the USA. I think these countries can go for having a trade in their national currencies. Once that happens, I think they are going to expand their trade, and they need to bypass the US dollar because it is a kind of a hegemonic West agenda, which many countries in the region, which many countries in the bloc, they are pursuing not out of an option, but out of a compulsive conditions. And I think that is where the ECO can take a bold decision. To begin with, there has to be a trade in their local currencies. I'm not talking about a BRIC-like situation. Those countries are thinking basically, BRIC bloc is thinking basically to completely bypass dollar and come up with their own currency. But I think as a baby step, probably the local trade is already there in some of the countries, but it can be expanded to begin with.
So, Mr. Shirelli, how significant is ECO to Iran's regional trade strategy, especially under sanctions pressure? And how can ECO help Iran bypass isolation and enhance regional connectivity?
First of all, Iran has been and is a founding member of ECO, and the Secretariat is based in Tehran. So that means Iran is one way or another coordinating or overseeing policies and performance and programs of ECO. But specifically speaking about Iran, I think Iran is not only using ECO to skirt or in a way to, as you said, I'm trying to use your word, to bypass those sanctions, but is playing a more influential role in this organization. Well, these countries, which are members of a certain bloc, they have, they are in one way or another interdependent. So they have something that the other country may not have it. So Iran basically is suggesting using ECO for, like I just mentioned, how member states can lower or waive tariffs and at the same time barter goods so that no currency could be exchanged between the countries, member countries. And also like the project that Iran has with Turkmenistan and swaps gas with Turkmenistan. And in one way or another, this bartering and this swapping, as well as transit of goods within member states, can facilitate trade among them. Well, Iran naturally will use such capabilities to increase its trade with member states, and at the same time, as you said, to bypass or skirt those sanctions. But Iran never elaborates on the details of how it is skirting these sanctions because of their importance. But in one way or another, Iran is acting very naturally among member states. Iran is not only relying on ECO or ECO, but it has also become a member of Eurasian bloc. Iran has become a member of Shanghai Security Organization, also a member of BRICS, and is trying to invest and tap the capacities of these regional and sub-regional blocs in order to increase its trade and bolster its economic foundation. So trying to answer this question shortly, Iran is doing so not only to bypass the sanctions, but also to increase its trade and also diversify its sources of income under a usual situation. And now that it is under Western-led sanctions because of its peaceful nuclear program, Iran seems to see ECO and other regional blocs as a better way of acting bilaterally, so that going on a multilateral basis and use these interdependency facilities. Countries are interdependent, and at the same time, blocks are interdependent. In one way or another, there is no, I should say, complete co-central coverage of interest. Any country can have its own interests, its own security considerations, and it's natural that not all ECO members will agree on every aspect because, as I said, these are not concentric circles. These are heterocentric circles. And many members of ECO, like many other countries in the world, may have converging interests as well as diverging interests. But by investing on the aspect of cooperation, I think Iran has been able to use ECO as one way of increasing and diversifying its trade. But trade is not the only part that Iran is investing. Iran, I think, because of its historical relations with the ECO countries, has been also investing the cultural aspect and, I should say, the side of the cooperation, not just focusing on politics or economics. Iran is, as I said, is hosting the ECO Secretariat in Tehran, and it is also hosting the Eco-Cultural Institute, which is based since 1990s, I think. It's hosting or is coordinating various programs on calligraphy, on handicrafts, on folk culture, folk music, and in one way or another trying to increase the bonds among ECO members beyond trade and beyond politics.
So, Mr. Erim, this question is for you. As we all know, Turkey is both a bridge to Europe and a core ECO member. How does Ankara balance these dual roles?
Well, Turkey has been quite successful in dealing with within conflict zones, obviously by its geopolitical positioning. But also, I think Turkey has actually proven herself to be able to, meet every side at bare minimums. I think a perfect example of this would be Turkey's role and Turkey's positioning and diplomacy during the, which is still going on in the war between Russia and Ukraine, where Turkey was able to show everybody, and probably first time in history, where a nation can actually have a very great level of communication and diplomacy between two countries at war. And bear in mind, both countries are physical neighbors of Turkey. So I think Turkey, the government, the foreign minister of foreign affairs, the entire diplomatic corps of Turkey has the experience to balance these out. And I think all of the members, if not the most, should also value this, experience that Turkey has on the international scene. But again, it's going to take a cooperative, effort by all in the group to be able to get to maximize benefit for each country and for the region and for the cooperation, the economical cooperation itself, to make the best effort. And I think Turkey could very well be a very valuable asset in taking this the economical union on the international scene and on resolving the international disputes, which are bound to come about. When we talk about economical unions, we're talking about, of course, movement of natural resources. Hence, we're talking about movement of big amounts of finances and money. So there will be problems, there will be hurdles, and I think Turkey would be a very, very good choice to be able to lead or at least be the front runner in trying to resolve any of the international disputes that are bound to come about as the time progresses, but especially as this economical union catches more and more success in its due time.
So, Mr. Reyna, this question is for you. What are the political and the logistical hurdles to deeper cooperation? Are member states truly ready to prioritize regionalism over national interests?
I think in case of Pakistan, Iran, we have seen that because of sanctions on Iran, Pakistan could not import gas from Iran. I mean, that is the biggest problem. Pakistan is an energy deficit country, and this Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline has been lingering on since 90s onwards. And at the core reason is obviously it's Americans' pressure on Pakistan, and Pakistan has not been able to complete this project. I think these are the political reasons. This is a bigger issue. And then because of those reasons, there is more smuggling between Iran and Pakistan than trade. And I think once these political reasons are removed, and I believe this would only happen when Americans politically get weakened over the course of a couple of years probably. And it will take Americans some time, more time to give Iran some tough time. But I think that is the biggest hurdle. Another reason is that we have seen that over the period of time that Afghanistan, there have been a lot of turmoil in Afghanistan, particularly before the return of Taliban. The scale of the security problem was huge. Taliban were very active in attacking Americans and Americans' allies in Afghanistan. Now with the return of the Afghan Taliban in Kabul, situation has changed. It has been, by and large, is a peaceful country. There have been unfrequented attacks on the Taliban government by the terrorist group Daesh. But I think with this, now it means that there is a greater opportunity for Pakistan to have greater trade activity with the Central Asian states. Because by doing so, it will improve its economy. Pakistan's economy has been in shambles, particularly since March, April 2022, when the then Prime Minister Imran Khan's government was removed. And since then, there has been a political unrest in Pakistan. But I think with the change of guard in Kabul, there is a great opportunity. Trade between Pakistan and Central Asian states has gone up, but again, it is not meeting the potential that it really deserved to be. So in a broader picture, my understanding of the situation is that given the fact that Turkey has a huge influence in Central Asian states on Pakistan, and it is also managing its relation with Iran, both Turkey and Central Asian states and all members in this bloc, they can do a lot. There was also a bigger project between Pakistan, Iran, and Turkey, and that was connecting, having a road link from Pakistan to Iran and from Iran to Turkey. I think that trade is also in shambles. It is not meeting its potential. Again, the point that I had made earlier on is simple because all these countries in the bloc, they are participating in so many regional blocs, and there is a kind of a duplication of their interest, and there is also a rivalries, and then influence from the vested influence from the different so-called great powers. But I think with the BRI project, that is a key. China has invested around $65 billion in its BRI project, Built and Road Initiative, and that connects China from Pakistan's Gwadar port in the southern west region to rest of the Asia, to Africa, and also parts of Europe. And I think by giving access to the Central Asian state to Pakistan's Gwadar port via its province Balochistan, I think the trade can multiply, and the huge nearly 9 trillion GDP of this bloc that can potentially be expanded in years to come.
Mr. Turaj Onur Erim, and Javad Reyna, thank you all for talking to A News. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. In a time when global alliances are shifting and supply chains are being redrawn, this regional bloc could become more than just a geographic convenience. It might just be the engine of economic resilience and integration across one of the world's most dynamic corridors. Stay with us here on Context, where regional stories meet global relevance.